So, part 2, the unity.
Is it on right now? We rolling?
Yeah.
Action!
So, intro to the people of the scrolls is just the same couple slides from last time. The people of the scrolls were first referenced in the historical account, Jewish war by Josephus, written in 75 to 79 AD by the ancient historian, guess what, Josephus. Being centered around the Roman military occupation of Israel in the early 1st century, they are known by outsiders as the Essenes, a minute separatist sect of Judaism from around 2nd century BCE to 1st century AD, although they would challenge those claims. These doctrines were kept secret from the public. They are known amongst themselves by their collective title, Enter the Unity. So, we're going to look at some highlights of the actual membership. We're going to look at highlights of their doctrine, their eschatology, doctrine again apparently, and initiation, and then penalties. And then we will look at their leader. So, doctrine. Separation and preparing the way. This is quoting from the community scroll. Do not talk to outsiders or be associated with their work or their money. Do not discuss the scriptures with them. Do not eat or drink what is theirs or accept any object from them. Do not immerse in the same water as outsiders, as it is impossible for them to be purified or clean. They believe that they are the sons of light, is what they call themselves, that they're the true Israel, and that everyone else who's not in the unity are called the children of darkness. Us versus them. Those who enter the unity can anticipate long life, bountiful peace, multiple progeny, even though they practice celibacy, and eventually eternal life. On the other hand, everyone not belonging to the unity is fated to everlasting damnation and eternity of torture by the evil angels of perdition, all the while burning in utter darkness. The charter in the community scroll in the community rule has a long descriptive passage on Gehenna, basically describing how they're going to be tortured. And the fate of outsiders are chilling. The detail of it holds a reflection of their hatred for outsiders. 2 spirits. They believe everyone is controlled by 2 spirits, an angel of light and an angel of darkness, and pretty much completely reject free will of any kind. Well, what about the temple? The wicked priest and replacement. The leader declared the high priest in Jerusalem is corrupt, and Qumran is now the true temple. The leader calls the high priest in Jerusalem the wicked priest, and Qumran will be the temple that God favors. Later, we'll take a look at the identity of the wicked priest to see if he was actually wicked or not. And the scripts down at the bottom are detailing that God said that you will only give your sacrifices on the place where I place my name. And then 2 Kings is confirming that that was Jerusalem. Immersion. You need to constantly immerse in a mikveh to be physically pure for ritual presence in Qumran, since they believe it's the new temple, i.e. the Qumran settlement itself. And if you are unclean for any reason, you are to be separated from the assembly. 2 messiahs. Unlike Second Temple Judaism, the eschatology leading up to the appearance of the Messiah, Yeshua, they didn't believe in the doctrine of Mashiach ben Joseph and Mashiach ben David, hence that he would come first as a deliverer and then as a conquering king. They believed in Mashiach ben Aaron. He would come as a high priest on the earth, and then Mashiach ben David, a conquering king. We'll look at that more in depth. And he held to there being 2 separate messiahs and not one. The final battle. They every day awaited a coming final battle when the sons of light and the children of darkness would come together in an Armageddon-esque battle for the world. So, they draw themselves out of the world in seclusion. They prepare the way for the Lord. They believe that all Israel will join the unity, possibly because of persecution or war. The first Messiah, the priest, will appear amongst their ranks, and then an army is assembled, And then the second Messiah, the warrior, appears and will lead the army. The final battle will take place between the sons of light and the children of darkness, and then the divine kingdom is ushered in after that battle. That's the crash course. So let's take a look at the particulars. For that, we will need to look at the community rule scroll, which is exactly what it sounds like. First, initiation. It's a 2-year process, evaluated on how teachable you are. And at the end of the 2-year process, all of your assets, all of your life savings will be merged into the unity and the general membership. You would have to take a vow concerning the pure meals if you are excommunicated, you are shut out from the pure meals. Say, okay, so what? I just won't eat with you weirdos. What expulsion means? Men convicted of major offenses, this is a quote from Josephus' book, are expelled from the order, and the outcasts often come to a most miserable end. For bound as he is by oaths and customs, he cannot share the diet of non-members, so is forced to eat grass till his starved body wastes away and he dies.
That's crazy.
Because unfortunately in modern times we've lost completely what a vow means. You say to somebody, alright, I promise. And then if adversity comes our way, we don't think anything about it. Whereas back then you were bound by a promise. Like if I told Hadley, I promise I'll be over at your house tomorrow and I get a flat tire, I have to call him and say, can you please release me from my vow? Or I better start walking. So, this is a quote from the community rule. If any one of Israel volunteers for enrollment in the party of the unity, the man appointed as leader of the general membership shall examine him regarding his understanding and works. If he has the potential for instruction, he is to begin initiation into the covenant, returning to the truth and the precepts of the unity. He must stand before the general membership, and the whole chapter shall interrogate him about his particulars. According to the decision of the society of the general membership, he shall either proceed or depart. If he does proceed in joining the party of the unity, he must not touch the pure food of the general membership before they have examined him as to his spiritual fitness and works, and not before a full year has passed. Further, he must not admix his property with that of the general membership. When he has passed a full year in the unity, the general membership shall inquire into the details of his understanding and works of the law. If it be ordained, in the opinion of the priests and the majority, he shall be initiated further into the secret teachings of the unity. That's actually what it says. They shall also take steps to incorporate his property, putting it under the authority of the overseer, together with that of the general membership. The initiate's not to touch the drink of the general membership prior to passing a second year among the men of the unity. When that second year is passed, the general membership shall review his case. If it be ordained for him to proceed to full membership in the unity, they shall enroll him at the appropriate rank among his brothers for discussions of the law, jurisprudence, participation in pure meals, and admixture of property. Extremely manipulative behavior if you haven't seen that already. Wherever 10 men belonging to the party of the unity are gathered, a priest must always be present. So that'd be like Sarah Men's group. If all of us met up somewhere and hung out, Dennis always has to be present. If that doesn't seem weird already. You can be permitted not to speak or be silenced to speak about any of the governing matters at all. And starvation and humiliation was a favored practice of discipline. All your money's merged in, so you're kind of stuck. You cannot be impaired. The blind, the deaf, and the lame are not allowed in the unity. The blind, because they can't see if they are touching something that makes them unclean. The deaf, because they cannot hear the proper interpretations of the teachings to know whether or not they're becoming unclean or not. And the lame, they say, because it scares the angels away.
Oh my god.
Amen.
Compare that to the words of the Messiah. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest.
Wait, now I have a question.
Yes.
So you get in a car accident and you're paralyzed? Do you just like get
Done.
excommunicated?
I don't
Yeah,
think
they
they were
didn't have
cars.
cars.
Right. I don't know. There was never a rule for what happened to you if you became lame while in the membership. Didn't say.
I assume they just kicked you out.
Right.
Doesn't seem like they cared very much.
No. Penalties and punishments. If you disagree, anyone who answers his comrade defiantly or impatiently, thereby rejecting the instruction of his fellow and rebelling against the orders of his high-ranked authority, is to be punished by reduced rations and exclusion for the pure meals for 1 year. So you're to eat outside, and you're just given a portion of bread to survive. Megadeth. Not the band. Anyone who speaks aloud the most holy name of God, whether in cursing, or as a blunt in time of trial, or for any other reason, or reading a book or praying, he's to be expelled, never again to return.
Eat grass.
Gotta eat grass. Penalties: lying, reduce ration 6 months. Accusation, reduce rations 1 year. Money, if you lie about how much money you're gonna mix in, you actually have money outside, 1 year. Disagree, 1 year. Megadeth, expulsion, death by starvation. Interrupting while in session, 10 days. Falling asleep in session, 30 days. Anyone who's found naked, 6 months. If you spit in the midst of the general membership, 30 days. If you burst into laughter, 30 days. If you gesture with your left hand in conversation, 10 days. Right, see, you would have got 30 days. Gossip about a companion, 1 year. Gossip about the general membership, you are banished. And the elite members, if you commit any sin according to the Torah or the community rule, instant banished.
I could not be for unity.
Sabbath. Any living human who falls into a body of water or cistern shall not be helped out with a ladder, rope, or tool.
Wow.
Oh, it gets worse. Compare that to the words of the Messiah. Is it lawful to heal on the Shabbat? They said that so they might accuse him. And he said, what man is there among you who has 1 sheep, and if it falls into the pit on Shabbat, will not lay hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable then is a man than a sheep? Therefore, it is lawful to do good on the Shabbat. Here's another one. One may not travel outside the city more than 1,000 cubits on Shabbat. Say, all right.
Okay.
There shall be a space between other camps, and the bathrooms about 2,000 cubits. And no shameful nakedness shall be seen in the environs of the camps. So, you can't travel 1,000 cubits outside the settlement on Shabbat. The bathrooms are 2,000 cubits outside the settlement. Surely not, right? Surely not. Surely you're just misreading that. This is a quote from Josephus. They abstain from seventh-day work more rigorously than any other Jews. For not only do they prepare their meals the previous day, so as to avoid lighting a fire on Shabbat, but they do not venture to remove any utensils or to go and eat themselves.
Oh my God.
So, if it's Friday night, you better go even if you don't gotta go. And archaeology actually confirms this. So they were able to find the bathroom site by punching in 2,000 cubits in a radius around the settlement. So you can't even get halfway to the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
Just make it 999 cubits? What?
Too unclean.
You can just pee
Pretty
really
wild.
far.
Stop.
So who's responsible for this madness? Me, the teacher of righteousness.
That's not a picture of him.
That's real footage.
What?
Really?
No.
IRL Polaroid.
Basic bio. He was around 30 to 50 years of age based off of the Damascus document for how old the leader could be. His ministry is somewhere between 200 to 100 BC. My educated guess is between 142 to 135, which is when Shimon Hatasi was in office as the high priest of the temple following the Maccabean revolt. And most scholars actually agree with this, that he is the one who's alluded to as the wicked priest in the teacher of righteousness writings, even though historically Shimon was actually pretty awesome. Previous to this dating, there was a theory that the teacher of righteousness was actually James, the brother of Jesus. But that was pretty much just well wishes to somehow connect him with the timeline of the New Testament and Christ and the disciples. Not only does the timeline disprove that, but also the teachings of James are pretty much in confliction with everything the teacher of righteousness taught. Funnily enough, the first century Jerusalem church, of whom which James was the leader of, they are also known by the Essenes. One of their chroniclers, who's an early church historian or chronicler, hence the name, labels the Essenes as heretics, and rightfully so, saying they are opposed to the tribe of Judah and to Christ.
Real quick, you said that they were also, did you mean they were also known as the Nazarenes? Because you
Yes.
said the Essenes again. And I was like, oh, no way James
Yeah.
was the Essenes. Okay.
No, they're known as the Nazarenes, but
Okay.
in the writings they said that the Essenes were heretics.
Okay.
And we'll see the actual quote later on. So here's the timeline again. You have the Maccabean Revolt, which is the Hanukkah, and it was shortly after that high priest was put into office. So his ministry is somewhere in there because he was alive when the teacher of righteousness was writing his writings. And so there's about, no matter how you cut it, there's about a 130-year gap between him and the birth of Christ. So there's no correlation between him and the events of the New Testament. Also, James is martyred in 62 AD. He was thrown off the temple and then beat to death. So that's like 190 years if you add that onto it. So let's take a look at his motives, his claims, his message, and then an insight into his mind. So his motives. It is evident in his various writings describing himself that one can gather that he elevated himself with divine claims of which were messianic claims. He brought this wonderful news to the high priest Shimon Hatasi in the temple, and then was then confronted, tried by the Sanhedrin, and was then expelled. Possibly escaped the persecution or execution, and was labeled as a heretic, and his family and friends abandoned him. He justified being exiled by him being rejected, and then demonized the said people, stating that he is the true way. He then tailors his doctrine to fit this situation, as people often do, and then starts a closed-off community centered on isolation, preparing the way for the Lord, and an impending apocalyptic battle, of which, of course, they are central to. This is the hymn scroll. The hymn scroll is a collection of the teacher of righteousness prayers that he would have the general membership read. I give thanks to you, O Lord, you have made my face to shine by your covenant, and I seek you as an enduring dawn, as perfect light. You have revealed yourself to me. But these your people go astray, for they flatter themselves with words, and mediators of deceit lead them astray, so that they are ruined without knowledge. Their works are deceitful, for good works are rejected by them. Neither did they esteem me, even when you displayed your might through me. Instead, they drove me out of my land as a bird from its nest, and all my friends and acquaintances have been driven away from me. They esteemed me as a ruined vessel. There's a more confirmation of that tale of events in the Pesher Psalm Scroll, which is a commentary on the book of Psalms by the teacher of righteousness. They often quote the Psalms for their end times prophecies. The teacher's commentary on Psalm 37. His commentary confirms his trial, expulsion, escape from execution. Here's the psalm. The wicked man observes the righteous man and seeks to kill him, but the Lord will not leave him and will not condemn him when he comes to trial. Now we're about to look at the commentary, and what you're about to read is what's called narcegesis. So I'm sure we've all heard of exegesis, eisegesis. Exegesis, taking the intended meaning out of the text. Eisegesis, reading your own doctrines and stuff into the text. Narcegesis is reading you into the text. So the commentary, he literally says, this refers to the wicked priest who observes the righteous man and seeks to kill him, and the law that he sent him. But God will not leave him and will not condemn him when he comes to trial. But to the wicked, God will give his just deserts by putting him into the power of the tyrants of the Gentiles to do with what they want. And what law is he referring to? The wicked priest condemned him for. So what's known as the Temple Scroll. The Temple Scroll is the longest scroll of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's 28 feet in length. written by the teacher of righteousness himself. It is a rewritten, plagiarized, essentially a Frankenstein Deuteronomy from the book of Deuteronomy, purposely omitting the name of Moshe or Moses. Whenever it says, "And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying," or when I put that into images, it actually scrambled the Hebrew at the bottom. But it would say, Vadibar Hashem El Moshe La Emor. He took that and changed it to just Vadibar Hashem Lamor, to just "and the Lord said." He took out "and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying," completely took that out. Seemingly to take credit that the Lord is speaking to him and making the temple scroll seem like a direct revelation to himself. The motive is to infer himself as the new Moses. And what's so bad about that? That is actually a claim of being the Messiah. Many people were awaiting a new Moses figure in the second temple period. The coming prophet. This is probably the same script that they probably condemned him on. Not for sure, it doesn't say. But "I will raise up for them a prophet like you," talking about Moses, "from among their brethren. I will put my words in his mouth. He shall speak to them all that I command him. And it shall be that whoever will not hear my words, which he speaks in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die." He literally says in his own prayers in the Psalm scroll, "But you, O God, have placed your words in my mouth." Is that really what's being referred to here, or am I making this a stretch? In the Messianic proof text scroll, or to find the identity of the Messiah, he says, "And the Lord said to Moses, I have heard the words of this people, which I have spoken to you. They are right in all that they have spoken. If only they have such a mind as this, to fear me and keep all my commandments always, so that it might go well with them and with their children forever. I will raise up for them a prophet like you among your own brethren. I will put my words in his mouth. He shall speak to them everything that I command him, and anyone who does not heed the words of that prophet shall speak in my name, I myself will hold him accountable." And quote that exact same passage in their Messianic proof text scroll. Which is just so insane to justify his own mutilated version of Deuteronomy. He has to quote from the actual book of Deuteronomy. It's insanity. He uses this work, the temple scroll, to inflict power and authority on the general membership of Qumran, basically giving them free reign to discipline them if they disagree with them. They're unable to leave because they have vowed before God, and all of their money and life savings is merged into the group, so they're kind of stuck. Whoa. Changing the Torah. The temple scroll that the leader of righteousness wrote eliminates these passages. It purposefully omits strangers and sojourners, not to vex strangers, and also engrafting people who are not Israelites into Israel. Completely takes all that out. And also the passages talking about condemning divorce and polygamy, funnily enough. And there's a lot more changes. He also adds new temple designs, obviously, because they believe their place is the new temple. They add new feasts, and they add purification guidelines. The same Torah he mutilates says itself in the original, "You shall not add to the word which I command you, nor take away from it, that you may keep the commandments of the Lord your God which I command you. Whatever I command you, be careful to observe it. You shall not add to it, nor take away." So, further proof of his self-identity. These are quotes from the Thanksgiving hymns and the hymn scroll. Like I said, containing the prayers of the book of the teacher of righteousness. These are just isolated quotes. "You have revealed yourself to me. You have displayed your might through me. None besides me shall be exalted. No one shall come against me. They are ruined without knowledge. They rejected me. They are with Belial," or the devil. "For all who attack me, you will condemn to judgment, so that in me you might divide between the righteous and the ungodly. You have given me discernment into your truth, and your wondrous mysteries you have made known to me. But you, O God, have placed your words in my mouth." No one besides me shall be exalted. This is the self-glorification hymn. He's about to completely talk about himself, and then at the very end, if you think he's talking about God, he doesn't start talking about God until the very end when he switches. Who is like me? Who like me has refrained from evil and compares with me? I have never been taught, but no teaching compares with my teaching. Right? For I have dwelt on high in the heavens. Who is like me among the angels? For I am beloved of the King, a companion to the holy ones, and no one shall come against me, and to my glory no one compares. As for me, my office is among the angels. Sing praise, O beloved ones, sing to the King of glory. It's wild. Though the community of the unity is centered around a holy community and fellowship with their guiding leader, shepherding everyone and drawing them closer to God to attain truth, quoted in his own prayers, you have appointed me as a father to the children of mercy and as a guardian to the men of portent. You, my God, have appointed me as a holy counsel to the weary. Behind the metaphoric veil, he ensnares members by seizing their assets upon acceptance. He has complete control over your relationships, supervised free time, niche restrictions, starvation as a main punishment, restricted free thought, able to be silenced, and public humiliation. As a textbook cult. An observation into his mind. You can completely discount this part if you want, but this is the observation into his mind that I concluded to. So, like we said before, he's around 30, 50 years old. Came from a broken or troubled household as a child, possibly from the Maccabean revolt. He had a mesmerizing personality, charismatic. He's very well spoken in all of his prayers. And though his knack for manipulation formed later in life, we're about to look at the order of manipulation here in a minute, I truly believe that he believed all of his teachings wholeheartedly. His exile and being abandoned by his friends and family most likely worsened his mental state, which led him to degrade and double down on his delusion. Love bombing and financial abuse were his preferred methods of manipulation. Love bombing is usually learned and originates from childhood neglect. It's a supporting detail of the troubled childhood.
What's love bombing?
Like showing great affection to somebody, and then when they do something that you dislike, you withhold your affection.
It's like using love to control someone.
Yeah. So, and they created an ideology centered around community, with him as its mesmerizing leader, which attracted his followers. And that's actually way more effective than you think. If you take people who are easily mesmerized or lost or broken, looking for an identity or a sense of belonging or assurance in a crazy world, and expose them to that kind of environment, that can be extremely addicting. They will happily embed themselves regardless of red flags or strict rules. Example of that is the Heaven's Gate cult, who had very strict ways of life, and the leader even went as far as to force them all to castrate themselves. And they all did it for the community. For the teacher of righteousness, attracting and keeping followers was essential to satisfy his religious delusions. It's the only way he could get satisfaction of his delusions. He had an average level of scriptural knowledge, though not as advanced as other heretics of this nature. He could have actually done way better.
Jacob's like, if I was a cult leader, I would be so much better than this guy.
He was guided mostly by narcigesis, which allowed him to wildly eisegete his beliefs into the scriptures. Once you've convinced your followers that the scriptures are about you, it's free game. You can make the white part of the scriptures say anything you want. So that goes without saying. He had delusions of grandeur, writing his own books and inferring himself as the Messiah, which led to his exile from society in the first place. I'll look at the order of manipulation. When analyzing cult behavior, the order in which manipulation or manipulative behavior emerges is actually pretty important when analyzing cults. The order in which manipulation occurs is a telltale sign if the person actually believes his or own heresy. or is just using it for a sinister intent. If you take Joseph Smith, for example, he was a con artist way before even starting Mormonism. And his stories changed multiple times in a very short span of time, and his doctrines were heinous from the start in order to manipulate his followers for his own benefit. So here's a graph. You have Joseph Smith, who his manipulation started before establishing the Mormon Church, and then his doctrine emerged. Or if you take the teacher of righteousness, his delusional doctrine was created before. It was only after that he revealed himself in these heresies and was exiled that the manipulation occurred so that he could gain satisfaction for his delusions. And it is eerily crazy how the teacher of righteousness and David Koresh are essentially brain children. If you want to learn kind of more about the teacher of righteousness, you can literally just do a research on David Koresh himself. They are like twins. In summation, he completes a textbook list of cult leader behavior in the subtype of a apocalyptic cult. So you have like the trifecta here of grandiose delusion, and then paranoia and persecution, or isolation and us versus them, which these two bottom ones, which come from grandiose delusion, they can become delusions in and of themselves. If you don't believe me, there's a little story. So we have 3 little piggies. The first one was called the family, the second one was called the unity, and the third one was called the branch. The first one believed in a nuclear war that would end the world called Helter Skelter, by the Beatles song of the same name. The second one believed in a final cosmic battle. And the third one's believed in the opening of the 7 seals of Revelation, which would end the world. The first one's believed this war would be between 2 ethnic races. The second one believed it would be between the sons of light and the children of darkness. The third one's believed it would be between Babylon and the Lamb. The first group believed that this war would bring about the dawn of a new age. The second ones believed it would usher in the coming divine kingdom. And the third ones believed it would also bring a coming divine kingdom. The leader of the family was also known as Charles Manson. The leader of the unity was also known as the teacher of righteousness. And the leader of the branch was also known as David Koresh. So if you can actually look past their crazy wild doctrines, all cults, especially apocalyptic cults, are all identical. Like Jim Jones would fit this list, Heaven's Gate would fit this list. Ecclesiastes 1:9. That which has been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. There is no new thing under the sun.
That rhymes.
It does. The main targets of cults. There are 3 main targets of cults. Most of them interact with these 3. The first one, the divinity of Christ, or the identity of the Messiah in general. It's evident in the unity with the teacher of righteousness himself, believing himself to be one of the Messiahs, along with the messianic proof text. 2, the Torah, specifically the law itself, the creation account, or the family structure, which is evident in the Temple Scroll and the Book of Jubilees. And then the third main target of cults is Revelation, or end times, which is present in the Ward Scroll, their belief in 2 different messiahs, and their use of the Book of Enoch. And literally all of the cults on this list, the Unity, the Branch Davidians, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormonism, Jim Jones, Gnosticism, Heaven's Gate, and pretty much any list of cults that you can come up with, they all, either one or all, interact with those 3 points. So what happened to them? Historical accounts of destruction. Historical records, including those of Josephus, allude to the destruction of the Essene community. Josephus attributes the demise of the Essenes to the Roman conquest of the region in 68 to 69 CE. While he does not explicitly mention Qumran itself, the upheavals of the Jewish revolt and the subsequent Roman campaign likely contributed to the decline or dispersal of the Essenes. Quote, "But the fate of the Essenes was to perish in the flames of the city. Their only refuge was death. But they died in holiness, preferring contempt of death to over surrendering their principles." Archaeological evidence of destruction. The archaeological excavations at Qumran, led by Roland Devaux, you speak French, was that close?
Devar.
In the 1950s, uncovered evidence of a destructive event. The ruins showed signs of fire and destruction, indicating a violent end to the settlement. The findings align with historical accounts and contribute to the narrative of the Qumran community's demise during a period of regional turmoil. The disappearance of the Qumran community may also be seen through the lens of their eschatological expectations. The Essenes, fervently waiting for a messianic age, might have viewed these tumultuous events of their time as the realization of their apocalyptic visions, much like their Waco counterparts. The culmination of their eschatological hopes could have contributed to a sense of fulfillment and completion, but ironically, the same with David Koresh and his community in Waco actually led to their destruction. So, after the teacher of righteousness' death, sometime between 135 and 100 BC, the Union continued in false hopes given by the teacher through to the 1st century AD, until the climax of the Jewish-Roman conflict, where sometime during that period, the Romans massacred the members of Qumran, and there's evidence of Roman arrowheads at Qumran. After their destruction, the many scrolls that lay in the settlement and surrounding caves that will now wait almost 2,000 years till their discovery. The remaining members of the unity, known universally as the Essenes, that were not in the settlement of Qumran but lived elsewhere, continued in broken splinter cells, being mentioned in the writers of early church chronicler Hegesippus the Nazarene and elsewhere. So there's a whole lot bigger quote to this, but the context of this quote is speaking specifically about 2nd century heresies. From these men also come the Menandrianists, the Marcionists, the Capocratians, the Valentinians, the Balassidians, and the Saturnilians. A lot of Nilians. Each of these leaders, in his own private and distinct capacity, brought in his own private opinion. From these have come false Christs, false prophets, false apostles, men who have split up the one church into parts through their corrupting doctrines, uttered in disparagement of God and of his Christ. There were moreover various opinions in the matter of circumcision among the children of Israel, held by those who were opposed to the tribe of Judah and to Christ, such as the Essenes. After the 2nd century AD, the Essenes dissolve into the void, until false assumptions and false truths on the identity of the Essenes appeared in more modern times, leading to a random reappearance of Essene practice in today's time. Like they tried to say that Jesus was an Essene in like modern studies. They tried to say that John the Baptist was an Essene. All these crazy assumptions about who they were and who was in them. All kinds of crazy stuff. So, takeaways. People use the Dead Sea Scrolls to say, look, the Book of Enoch or XYZ mystical book was found in them, therefore it's legitimate and it should be in canon, and they are being hidden from us. Same people usually have never read the said books to understand why they were not considered legitimate or canonized later. But now knowing the nature of the Essenes, the unity, the possession of many mystical and esoteric books now makes sense. Secondly, when researching any, especially religious documents, researching the author is equally as important as researching the document itself. I'm not talking about just researching the dude's name, but researching what background this dude comes from or what the dude believes. In religious documents, the biases, the beliefs, the doctrines, no matter how subliminal or subtle, are present in the document, with most of the time the reader being completely unaware.
The question I have is how many emeralds for a mini book?
What, like the villagers? Oh, I don't know. So like stuff like the Book of Secrets, Festival Prayers, the Account of Samuel, the horoscope written in code, the Time of Righteousness, Enoch and the Watchers, the Phases of the Moon, whatever. Are you really surprised anymore now that you know the truth about who these people are? And that's just the end.
They're kind of weird.
They are.
I don't think I like it.
In fact, most books you'll read about the Dead Sea Scrolls, they often refuse to call them cults because there's apparently some practice in antiquity against calling religions and antiquity cults.
Yeah.